Perfect.
You happy?
Hello, how are you, Aunt Carolyn?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
Great.
Yep.
The
So
horse master of the family.
thank you.
So I read this book. My mentor encouraged me to read this book, despite the fact that I told him I really had no time for more reading projects because I already usually choose relatively informative books that aren't, you know, like fantasy or fiction. But but he wanted me to read this book, and so I listened to it on Audible, and I thought it was amazing, which is why I shared it with you. And
Yes. I'm glad you did. It was great. It's a great book.
yeah, well, and I read it again after that, and even Dancing Dan went and listened to it.
That's
Um,
very impressive.
yes, but he shared it with me because as much as there is to learn about horses, which I figured you would enjoy it from that perspective,
Mhm.
he shared it with me because he said all this stuff applies to people
Yes,
too, and
absolutely.
and of course, in my case, women as well, which
Oh
I did
God.
find that to be very true. Um,
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be just women. It's
no, not at all.
all humans.
I mean, in general, the whole idea of passive leadership was in just
Well, I think
a
you need to
great, well
understand.
constructed idea.
Well, passive leadership, though, in the human world is different from passive leadership in the horse world.
That's
Like
true.
passive leadership in the human world, pretty much is like laissez-faire. No direction, no getting involved with anything, just letting problems work themselves out. It's kind of like a lazy way of leading people, and people become disoriented. They become dissatisfied because they have no guidance. Passive leadership with horses, on the other hand, is a little different.
Right,
It's
because horses are looking for guidance.
they're looking for a leader who's calm, who's looking out for them, who sets an example. That's their guidance. That's
But
their direction.
you don't believe people are looking for that too?
I do believe people are looking for that. But when you say passive leadership with respect to humans, it's not the same thing. Definitely not the same thing. Because it has to do with when we talk about leadership in the human world, it's talking about kind of like the business world or somebody who takes control, and leadership is somebody who's in charge, who knows direction,
Right.
the goals that have to be achieved.
Well,
Passive leadership,
yeah,
yeah, in the human world, is not that
I
at all.
I would say I wouldn't encourage being a passive leader in the world of business, but in the world of your relationships with anybody else, whether it's your family or your friends or someone else,
Mhm.
um, I do think the same rule will usually apply as it does with horses, where most of those people are, they're looking for someone who, like you said, is calm and collected and
Lead by example.
yes, exactly.
Mhm.
Not someone who's barking orders or who's happy to give orders, even if they're not barking them, like in the world of business. But um, in the whole human experience outside of maybe the workplace, and even a little bit in the workplace as it relates to just getting along with humans, maybe not as it relates to getting accomplishing the goal, but as it relates to getting along with humans in the workplace, but also outside of the workplace. I think that idea is very similar to horses. No.
I think, yes, to an extent. I think people, unlike horses, horses live in the moment. They live in the moment.
Like people
They,
should.
well, people should, I suppose, yes, but humans don't. By nature, we don't. We're always
Right.
thinking ahead. We're always either driving towards some sort of goal, or we're wallowing in some despair of some sort and can't get out of it.
Right.
So in either way, we always like to have some sort of support in the sense of somebody might give us some great advice, not necessarily telling you what you have to do, but to give you some guidance, you know?
Right. Well,
Um,
and who better than the person who's collected and calm?
right,
And,
and
I mean, that's
calm.
just generally more accepting. I think would be a good word. It's much easier to connect and express your own vulnerabilities of your own situations.
That's right. With with the Horses Never Lie book, I think one of the things he was trying to convey is the idea of balance, balance in a
Yes.
relationship. You know,
Yep.
you're not an extremist. You're not pushing somebody around. You know, you see sometimes horses can be pretty brutal to each other. I know you've seen that. You know, somebody will
Oh
come
yeah.
after the other and try to bite them or kick them, or they're definitely letting you know, don't get in my space or get out of the way or I'm the boss kind of thing. But for the most part, you know, even if you look at my herd, they're all pretty mellow, pretty quiet. Somebody may be a leader in, you know, maybe for a couple of hours, and then somebody else may take over that role. And I think when you talk about when you look at the human life, humans are always out of balance. They're
Right.
always out of balance. They're always one extreme to the other. You can't just do a sport for relaxation and just let it go. You're achieving something. You're trying to be better. Horses don't
Well,
do
and that's where that if you have the opportunity to connect with that passive leader, they're able to help you recenter.
right, right.
Um, you do you have 5 horses right now, or you have 6?
There's 5 horses here. One's a boarder. One
Right.
belongs to my friend. Yeah,
Okay.
there's 5 horses here.
But it's interesting that they kind of trade off that role. I never thought about that. I was actually going to ask who is in charge, and or not necessarily in charge, but who do they typically follow?
There
Uh,
is often a herd hierarchy. You can't deny that in the wild. There's always one of them that's going to be able to. Usually, the stallion moves the herd from behind. The stallion's always behind. Usually, it's the head mare or the mare that's the most confident that will lead other horses to nutrition, you know, water, safety, that sort of thing, aware
mhm.
danger. But they're always interacting. You know, for instance, you'll see little groups even in my own herd, you'll see a couple of, you know, maybe 3 hanging out together and the other 2 someplace else. You know, every time a group lays down, there's somebody standing guard. It doesn't matter that it's not the same horse all the time. It's
Right.
just somebody there watching, standing guard. So it's a balance. They're always achieving a balance of who's maybe like, who's in the mood today to watch over the herd? I don't know.
Right.
They're
Who needs a
all,
break?
yeah.
Who's
And they all take their turns. It's very interesting.
hmm.
So, yeah. So to me,
Well,
that's what he's trying to get at is that whole idea of balance. And when we relate to the horse, we have to come from a spot where we're calm and we act like a horse in the
right.
sense that we try to give them leadership, you
Well,
know?
especially if we want them to be willing to work with us.
Right, right.
But
It's communication.
that applies to people.
Mhm.
The people are hoping to work with you. You have to be able to give them what they want that they
I
don't know they're
understand what you're
looking
saying.
for. Yeah.
Right. It's
Um,
you always so I don't know if you ever read any of Dale Carnegie's
of
books.
course. Oh yeah. 2.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome books. And that's kind of the same idea. You know, you don't just go right in and say, I want this done. You have to kind of sell the
Right.
idea. You have to encourage the person. You have to build that person up and make them realize they do have skills and abilities that are important that will help achieve your goals, believe it or not. Not that I want you to sound selfish or anything, but we all have goals we want,
Right.
you know? And so, yeah,
Well, that's. I mean, that's all.
Odie's saying hi to you.
That's all. Most relationships are is people coming together in an aligned goal. If you're doing it, um, if you're not coming from a place of domination, like some of the stories he was sharing, with the
Oh,
ineffective forms of leadership, where people didn't or horses didn't necessarily want to follow, but they were doing it out of
we're forced.
compliance, right?
I mean, we're not
But
happy. And
right,
you notice if you look in the competitive world, um, oftentimes it's the drive to win that ribbon or win that trophy, and they don't care at what cost to the horse it is to achieve that. You know, I mean, you'll see a lot of horses. There are, I think I forget, 27 pain indicators in a horse, shown in their faces, shown in their whole bodies, and people totally ignore them.
visual cues, you mean?
Visual cues, pain
Right,
indicators, where you say, oh, you know, just the look in the eye or the look above the eye or how they hold the mouth. they'll indicate that they're unhappy. There's something that's bothering them.
Like the ears,
The ears are
right?
one thing.
That was
But
one he
also
talked about a
tension in,
lot.
yeah, tension in the muscles though of the mouth. They hold their mouths really tight and pierce kind of. They're
Oh,
not
me too.
happy. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, so yeah, it's very and when you become in tune to a horse, like for me, I feel one of the best ways to become um a partner with the horse is using groundwork and in handwork, not necessarily riding them, but communicating and watching how are they responding. You know, I may go out to the ring one day and say, oh, this is what I want to achieve with this particular horse. Totally changes because I look at that horse and I say, okay, I don't have the focus I need. He, like, for instance, M is definitely always interested in what's going on in the environment. And then sometimes he's totally in tune with me. I have to manage what does that horse feel right now? And you have to become really in tune to reading those feelings. Same thing with a human. You know, same idea. You feel what is that human feeling? You may say something to a person and you say, uh-oh, I shouldn't have said that. Or
so
whoa, you're
that
way.
does bring up one of my questions. But first, I want to ask: do you know how many visual, or do you know how many pain cues human beings have by any chance?
I do not know. I
Just
do not
curious.
know offhand.
Uh,
I don't know if anybody's ever really done that study. There's
uh,
now, I forget her name. Oh gosh, I'll have to look it up and I can send it to you. It's a veterinarian who did that, who has done all this research on the pain cues in horses, the pain symptoms. I have a
wow.
whole list of them. I'll send them to you.
Oh
It's
well, yeah, of course, yeah. I
and
mean,
they're very good because when you're working with them, all of a sudden you'll see something and say, oh, okay, I need to
right.
back off on this. For instance, M hates anybody rubbing the front of his head. He doesn't like it.
And what does he do for a cue?
His cue is he will either push away, turn away, or bite.
Huh. Right.
Yeah, he doesn't, he's unhappy with that. Very unhappy.
That that was something that was a perspective I didn't have until reading that book. You know, the whole, especially with the one story with the horse that became dangerously aggressive, right? And then he sat down and he said, yeah, but he's never actually harmed anybody. He's always ran away.
Right.
And you know, you don't really think about those things until someone points it out,
Yeah.
and we're quick
No,
to look and say, well, that seems dangerous, but really they're just creating space.
exactly
And
right.
so it's,
And it's
yeah,
when they become pressured and that they can't, they're not reading their expression or they can't get away, is when they will become dangerous. You know, where they cannot,
right.
they'll fight to get away.
Once you actually like corner them.
Yeah.
One of the things he talked about was riding by the seat of your pants. And so I
Mhm.
don't totally know what that means. I feel like I do, but I don't. Like, I know it has to do with
Hanging
feeling it
on for
out.
dear life.
Well, good, because you can talk about it, because you know you're talking about um, paying attention to what that specific horse generally, how they generally are, and then what they're feeling that day, and reading that. And to me, that speaks to riding by the seat of your pants. No.
Um, I guess you could look at it that way because when I ride and when I teach riding, I I try to make the rider aware of what are they feeling under them. For instance, I don't let just anybody get on M because he is extremely sensitive, extremely. So if he feels any bit of tension through your seat, through your legs, through your knees,
He
he's
reads
like
it.
a total bomb, you know? So you need to be really relaxed. And that's where that, you know, passive leadership comes in because you're becoming consistent. You're consistently being, we're relaxed. I'm on you. We're going to stay relaxed. When he first came to me, he would bolt at the stupidest thing, you know? Uncle Rob would move the tractor someplace and he'd like have a flip. He'd like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I have to get away. So you have to learn, you have to teach them that it's okay. It's okay to stand there and look. An incident happened this past fall, and fall's the hardest time for him because the deer are, it's rutting season and there's all sorts of smells and the leaves are off the trees and everything looks different. And we came across, I was riding with Linda and my friend Jane, and we came across a buck and another deer lying literally almost underneath us when we walked almost on top of them. And they leaped up and ran away. And M did a quarter turn. In the past, he would have bolted on me. But he's gotten to the point now where, yeah, I'm staying calm. Okay, I'll just go this far and then I'll turn and look back at him. I've always turned to him to look at it so he can
Well,
see.
when you describe that, it sounds like riding by the seat of your pants actually has more to do with you than them.
Riding feel. It is. It's a
Right.
riding feel. But it has to do with them too. You have to feel what are they giving? What are they giving you? What kind of tension? You
Right.
know, when he's nervous, I can feel his heart pounding under my legs, under my
Mhm.
seat, the whole thing. So it's totally different. Every horse is different. Every horse reacts differently. He's been a challenge, at least.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I do think I recall you sharing that deer situation before.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's,
Yeah, it was,
yeah,
yeah, the first
you
time I
don't know
got
what
him,
to
there was
do.
a herd of deer milling under pine trees, just a herd. And we come down upon him and he couldn't figure out what the heck that was. And he did a 180 on me and tried to blow through Abra. And I like had to pull him back and make him stand and look. But that's really riding by the seat of your pants, is saying, yeah, no, you need to listen to me and stay here.
But
So
in that case, technically, he's not adopting the um,
the calm,
like
passive leadership, right?
right. Yes.
But remember, that was the first year I got him and I was riding him. Before that, he belonged to a friend of mine who was, um, she was dying of cancer. She was weak and she was afraid of him. And so every
Mhm.
time she got on him, there was a lot of tension through her whole body. And that's what I mean, she got him when he was a 4-year-old. And so that's what he started feeling. That's what he started reacting against. So I had to get through to that.
But even then, he's not working with the herd, so to speak, and paying attention to their. I mean, maybe he doesn't have that much experience. I don't know if he was with other horses with your friend, but
He was.
it doesn't seem like he's paying attention to the fact that all the other horses you're riding in that moment are perfectly okay with the
That's
noise.
right. He wasn't. He wasn't. He was relating it to an experience that he had had when had been ridden. That's what his reaction was. And
That's so
so
different from us.
it is. It's really different. And but I always take him out with somebody. Abra is his best buddy. He goes out with her. He'll go out with Mandy, and he'll go out with Star. And they're both all three of those horses are calm, and he's pretty calm with them. But he
Mm,
will still have them. He will still startle on me, and I have
right.
to be careful of that. But but again, he's been with me in 4 years now, and he's come quite a ways. I won't let
Right.
just anybody on him though. It's he's a challenge. You have to ride by the seat of your pants with him.
Mm.
You have to feel it. But see, this is why so Linda started doing some groundwork and in hand with him, and he responded really well to her because she really listened to him and paid attention to him. And when he has that type of leadership, so to speak, he's really very, very good, you know. So that's what's happening. But
So that
this is actually a good time too to talk about horse welfare. Did you ever think about that?
what do
Because
you
it
mean by
really
that?
relates to humans too. Horse welfare. What makes a horse happy and calm? And
Right.
and it's kind of relates the same way as to us, as us. What in your life makes you happy? You have friends. That's a social aspect. And now you think about generally, most horses are kept in stalls most of the time, right? Or most of the day. They don't have an interaction with any other horses. My horses are very lucky because they live like a wild herd, so to speak. But you think about what makes a horse a calm animal, you know? M came from a place in Canada. It was a hunter breeder farm, breeding farm, and the goal was he had to be able to jump and they had to be able to move him out and get rid of him and sell him right away. That was that was a business. And so she did a great job as far as when he was young. He was interacting with everybody. He had his herd, he had his friends, he was out wild. But then you start putting them in situations where they're locked in stalls, where they have to work all the time. So what makes horse welfare? What is it? What makes an animal happy? You know? And I think that's where Mark Rashid was talking about the balance in their lives. They need a balance. They need that. They need good nutrition. They need to be able to turn out. They need to have friends. They have an emotional aspect and even a spiritual aspect. You have to treat them like they're sentient beings, essentially. So, yeah, all those things play a part with horses.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, even the spiritual aspect is I feel like the spiritual aspect is what gives you the understanding of interacting with them from a place of morals. Like if you don't
Right.
acknowledge their spirituality, then you might not engage them with your own understanding of morality and the respect that they deserve being a living creature, like any
So
animal.
that's so true. But that's the same thing with humans. How do you
Right.
respect
Yeah.
humans? Same thing. It comes down, really, it does come, horses reflect us. They
Most
reflect
things
who we
reflect
are.
us.
Yes, exactly right. And I think, uh, you have to address not only their physical, but their mental, their emotional, their social, their I mean, everything. And it's the
Right.
same thing with humans, you know?
This I listened to this guy a long time ago, and he was talking about this from the sense of yourself, like you need to do this for yourself. But he described it as a wheel. Like if you only build the spokes on each wheel so long and you leave one short, then the wheel doesn't rotate
Right. It's
smoothly.
that balance idea again,
Right.
the whole thing of balance. And I really think that's what Mark Rashid was trying to instill in this book, is talking about balance in the horse's life, but also it reflects to the balance in our life, our lives. Because like I said, the horse reflects us, you
Right.
know, and every one of them is different. There's no one horse I've ever worked with that is the same, and there's no one way that's perfect for every horse.
Right. Just
And a
like you.
lot of times that was a hard lesson for me to learn with some of them. I thinking when I got M, I was thinking, oh my God, how come he's not as good as my mares? How come he can't figure this out? He's totally different. He's a
Right.
totally different horse. And so it's
Well, that does sound like the message he was pushing throughout the whole book. You can't just be a dominant leader who has your own goal in mind.
right.
You have to figure out what works for each horse.
Yeah.
Um, he said, and I don't remember what this was referring to when he said it, but you have to put feel behind each question. So I wrote that down to save it because I think
That's
in
awesome.
general that sounds like a very good rule to apply to most things you
Every
do in life. But yeah, how does that speak to you and how you relate to horses?
Absolutely. Feel, is that your dog?
No, that's the car. That's the street. I live on a busy
Oh my
street.
God. I thought it was
Not
your
enough
dog.
pastures. The dog is very quietly laying at my feet.
I have Odie sitting right here above here. Um, that speaks volumes to me. Volumes, you know. Um, you have to be able to put feeling into what you do and be able to read how those feelings are reflected back to you. You have to see what that animal's feeling, see what that human's feeling. You can't just you can't just walk up to somebody and say something without understanding at what position, where are they right now emotionally, where are they mentally, where just asking, and it could be just a second,
Hmm.
in your mind, you can read a person, right? Yeah, you
Well,
can.
and his choice of using the word question as opposed to any other word um, bears significance to me because using the word question implies your own curiosity and your own desire to learn and your own lack of knowledge thereof,
Mhm.
which automatically puts you at a position of engaging in a scenario without even subconscious, like arrogance or pride of assuming, like when you say, if you just make a statement to a person, you don't know how that's going to come across. But if you make a question, so um,
Well,
putting
here, let
feel
me tell
behind
you.
each, huh?
So part of my training, when I train with them, especially if I'm working from the ground and I'm trying to teach them, like a haunches in or a shoulder four or anything from the ground. We have our whip aids that are an extension of our hands. It is always this: can you do this for me today? Are you able to do
Right.
this? And that's what I mean when I say reading the animal, reading what they're capable of. But it is a question. You're always saying, well, what can we do today? What do we want to learn today?
Look
That's
to meet them where they're at
exactly right.
and
And
hopefully direct them where you want to go if
hopefully,
they're
hopefully they'll
receptive.
be happy to do it.
Right.
know? I mean, for instance, when I work with Abra, oh my God, she loves it when I praise her. When she goes, oh, I did it right. I mean, she's always talking to me. That horse talks to me all the time. I
What
think
does
is
that look like?
what does it look like?
Yes.
Oh, she'll give me a little whinny, a little,
Oh no, not that. I mean, what does you praising her look like? Like she responds to vocal cues, like vocal
I'll say,
praise?
oh, what a good girl, or I'll pet her, or I'll give
Right.
her a treat. I mean, I rarely give them treats because they can become a little bit more tree oriented. She's really they're so proud of themselves and they sit up more and they're like,
Right.
um, it's like, wow, look at me, I'm beautiful. And
That
that's what
pride
I
in
say
their
to them.
work.
I'll say, oh, you were such a good girl. This is perfect. And she just tries even harder.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting. A few times I've gotten some vocal response from M, but I think he's basically a mute, to be honest with you. He doesn't say anything. He never calls to me. He never calls to the others. Once in a while, we'll get a little whinny from him, just very like he's whispering. But he's like the silent type, I guess. But
Not his choice
yeah, but you know
of
what?
interaction.
When I ask him to do something, he's like, oh, okay, I think I can do it. Okay, I think, is this what you want? He's always asking me the question back, is this what you want? And I'll
Right.
say, yeah, good
Yeah, the
job.
search, the try. That's what he called it. The
Yes,
try.
the
Yes.
try. And you have to praise every little try. Otherwise, you don't move forward.
That
Think about that.
shows a different degree of receptiveness though, versus like when I think of comparing what you're saying about him constantly asking you, is this what you want, versus the other horses where they seem very comfortable in their own cells celebrating that they did what you wanted right.
Mhm.
It just seems like a different, like almost a more secure, they're almost more secure in themselves and don't need the leadership but are happy to follow, versus the other horse which might need the leadership more.
Right. And as I said, M is very sensitive to things, sensitive to people. He loves people, sensitive to your reaction. Um, and it's not that he is, when he first came to me, he was very anxious about stuff. Um, and so it took a long time. Here goes, this is, oh, sorry. You mind if I move out of the way? He's,
Don't turn that microphone off.
and eh, the anxiety I had to get through that. I had to teach him that it was okay just to hang, just to be cool, not to be stressed or anything like that. But I think because he had gone to, my gosh, he was in Canada till he was 4. He went to my friend's and she kept trailing him back and leaving him for months at a time at another trainer's house, bringing him back home. And then when she got really sick, she ended up having me work with him. And it was just, I think he was just, there was no
Way too much going
consistency.
on.
Yeah,
No
no
solid.
right.
Yeah.
And I think consistency is a very important thing an animal needs in their life, especially
Right.
if you want to have a good connection with them. Um, you know, we're in March now, and we're going to start bringing the horses back, which, by the way, you're welcome to come and help work any of them if you like. And
You know where to find me. But
well,
I said, you know where to find me, but I'll reach out first too.
yeah,
You know.
anytime.
Yeah.
And they so we start with the ground. We start with all the groundwork. We start with them. Body language is huge. Horses communicate through body language. It's huge using our body language to convey what we want to them.
Right.
Like open shoulders, closed shoulders. I mean, all that stuff. And I think he took a while to learn what humans were asking of him. So it's kind of cool. He's come quite a ways. I'm very happy with that with him. I would love for somebody to take him over. Um, you know, I think to myself as I get older, my gosh, when I'm 80, oh my gosh, he'll be 20, 30, almost 30 years old. And, you know, I think to myself, what will happen to him, basically? Although I'll probably live to
Isn't
100.
isn't that about the horse and the extent of a horse's life though?
About 30 years old, yeah. He's 11 now. He's 11 years old now. So,
Well, good
and
thing you're gonna live to 100.
Yeah. Hopefully I can still ride. So
Hey,
yeah,
you
so
never
that's
know.
why, yeah. So anytime you want to come out and try and work with the ground and groundwork and see how your body communicates to them and so when we use the whip is just an extension of our hands and our legs. We never hurt the horse with the whip.
Right.
It's kind of an aid. That's all it is. Um, and they learn to understand that. So a lot of times I'll ask them, I'll just point to like his outside hip, and I say, I want to
Right.
hunch it in, and he'll turn and come around to it just with my finger. I don't even use the whip or anything.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. So your body language, all that. Energy level, huge, important thing for them as well. And
Well, and that's something I did a video on that too, but that's something I found to be very much the same with dogs. Is when
mhm,
working with dogs, they are always reading
always,
you,
always,
your whole demeanor and your attitude and your own
everything,
level. And they,
everything.
depending on the dog and its own, I guess self confidence, you would say,
Mhm.
um, it will completely respond to your
To
response.
exactly, exactly. It's with everything. I mean, you know, all my animals are pretty good here. All of them. I
Right.
go for a walk and
Except your dogs. Those are the only
I have three
miniature.
dogs and I have three dogs. Rosie's still kicking. That dog still goes out with it. I know, 19 years old. Can you believe it? So I have the three dogs. We go out to the field every day, every morning for a walk. And then I have Odie follows us. He's my fourth dog. We go out every day, three dogs and a cat, out to the field, walking around, strolling around. He follows me. He comes when I call him. They all come when I call them. They all want it. I'm their leader, I guess. They like being around. But it's important. It's how you connect with them. How did I train them? It takes time. It's
Right.
time.
But that on a deeper level ties into how do you connect with yourself? Because if you're not connecting with yourself, it's much harder for anybody else or anything else to be able to do that. How do you
Right,
trust someone who doesn't trust themselves?
right.
Um,
Exactly.
what else? What else jumped out at me? Let's see.
Ask away.
Yeah.
I
No,
thought it was a
it's
good
just
book. It was a great book. Just remember if there's no direction, there's no effectiveness. So you have to, as a course communicator, you have to try to give them some kind of direction. Um, if you give them too much direction, then they become resistant. You know,
because it's overwhelming.
it's overwhelming. They don't know, they can't process it. Did you ever read Horses' Brains, Human Brains? You should read that
No.
book. That's really good. That's another good book. Horse
Okay.
Brains, Human
Is
Brains.
that the one you texted me?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I gave it away to another lady that needed it.
I'll find it.
Yeah.
eBay is my hub for reasonably priced books.
Oh, you should go to Biblio. Biblio, you can get them real cheap.
Yeah. What's real
Yeah.
cheap?
Like $2,
Oh,
$3.
okay. Yeah, that's about
Just
eBay.
check Biblio out. Yeah.
I do like one of the things he mentioned was stop relying on technique to help you through things. I'm reading about the same thing in another book about a military commander, and he says you need to focus on your goals and not on the policies that get you to your goals because that actually deters you from it.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it takes away from the communication.
that too, yes.
Yeah.
Gosh, I literally have a notes list
That's okay.
that's so deep.
Ask away. I don't care. I like talking about this stuff.
I one of my favorite things that he said was anytime you're willing to fight with horses, they'll always fight back, except they'll always be trying to figure out what you want from them.
They will.
That
They don't
that was
understand. Yeah. They don't understand us. We have to communicate. We have to learn their language.
well, that's also very human. Even if even most humans don't understand each other, and
Mhm.
I have found that to be very true in most arguments where you fight with someone, and there's still a part of them that though willing to fight back is actually trying to um
Understand.
sometimes
Yeah.
yeah sometimes
You have to
you
pick
know
your battles.
that's true.
That's the bottom line. Humans and animals.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the horse and the energy thing, that was fascinating. That energy, that horses are always just instinctually inclined to reserve energy and find creative ways
Oh,
to doing that.
yeah,
That never thought about that. Um,
yeah.
I feel like that actually explains a lot of
Hmm.
human behavior too, especially where, when you give us something like the society we've created for ourselves, you end up with obese, complacent Americans sitting in front of a TV, hoping they can
Yeah,
pay for the next easiest thing.
God, I know.
But
I've never been like that. I don't relate.
I know, thank God.
If you remember too, the idea of the balance helps the horse develop their own personality even. You know,
Right. It
you start seeing
creates,
what the horses, yeah, you just see what they're capable of. And they, like I said, when Aber gets all excited about, oh my God, this, I did it right. And I'm so proud of myself. It lets you see their personality, but it also lets them develop their personality. I think it's really important.
well, and your ability to be a passive leader, which exemplifies your ability to create balance or
Mhm.
manage balance, allows, like you're saying, allows others to step into that frame so they can actually have that for themselves, so they can like find a haven from the extremes of the world, uh,
Right.
to
It's so funny.
build on their own
Their own
understanding of
confidence.
themselves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's funny because I just had a friend say to me, I mean, I've never thought of this. I never thought of myself as this. Because, oh my gosh, you are so stoic. And I'm like, I'm stoic.
You said thanks.
Stoic. I was like,
Then I'll write a book.
I was like, stoic. And it was kind of, it was interesting to me because it made me think about that. Am I really stoic? I don't think I am, but I think I'm, because I've been around horses so much, I'm used to being grounded. I would rather say I'm
Right.
grounded as opposed to stoic because I do have emotions, obviously.
Well, and I think they're, yeah, I see your difference, but I think to other people that looks very same. We have about 15 seconds before this is going to cut us off,
Okay,
but yeah, no, that's, and just the ability to be grounded is
it's a
life
great way to
changing
live.
for yourself and others.
That's right.
But hey,
Okay,
thanks for joining.
no
This was
problem.
a good
Thanks for the
time.
chat. Yeah, it was good. We can do it again sometime.
Yes, we will. After I watch the other book, read the other book.
Okay, that sounds
So,
good.
oh, it didn't cut me off. Okay, well, it's okay.
All right,
Nonetheless, good
charging now.
chatting. Thanks for your
All right,
time.
all
And
right. We'll see you. Ciao.